There we go. So I was able to borrow this from Elena Corcoran, but this is a Polaroid. And I just figure, you guys never look this good. Like week in and week out, I got to capitalize on this. You guys look presentable. You're going to say, yeah, you wanted to talk, sir. Right? You're wearing a jacket for the first time all year since last Easter. And I tell you this, every year I give you guys a jacket. I don't give you a jacket and a tie. You get one or the other. You pick. You can DM me later. Let me know what's better, a tie. You really don't want to see this 20-inch neck with a tie on. But that was meant to be funny. Thank you, Cody, for catching that joke. But no, Polaroid time. Okay, you guys ready? Suck it in. Oh, I almost blocked up the picture. There we go. You guys ready? I'm not going to be able to get everybody. I'm sorry. All right, 3, 2, 1. You better smile. There we go. So what I wanted to do in taking this picture was I wanted to show you something that looks like nothing. But it's not nothing. This is a picture of all of my friends. The most beautiful people I know are on this right now. And I'm going to keep this. I'm going to store it away for later. I'm going to put it in the dark right now. We'll come back to it. But when you take that picture, when you look at it and you show the Polaroid, it looks blank. It looks like there's nothing to it, but really it's a picture. It's in development. And there is something that's there, but it's working in the dark. And I just imagine that there's some of you that have come in today that would say, life feels kind of blank. Life sometimes feels empty. Life sometimes feels purposeless. Sometimes life feels dark. Sometimes life feels scary. And you say, I can resonate with that picture because that's how my life feels sometimes. And I'm not against picture taking. Like we have something out there in the lobby for you to take a picture. And we're just venturing that you wore some nice clothes today and that your extended family might be with you. And you guys might, just might, take a picture in front of that display. Not against pictures. But my guess is all of us in here, whether it's in your pocket or whether it's in your purse, my guess would be you have at least 1,000 photos on you. You young parents in the room say you think 1,000? It's more like 10,000. I caught them picking their nose. I got 8 pictures of it, right? Like that's just the way your phone's full of it. Our phones are full of it. I mean, several times a month I get a notification that says, Tyler, your storage is full. You have to start deleting stuff. And then you go and you look at it and you're almost embarrassed about what it is that you took pictures of. You're like, why did I take a picture of that? Why did I screenshot that meme that was like gold and not send it to anybody? Just me? I love screenshotting a good meme and think somebody else needs to see this. And then nobody else ever sees it, and it dies on my phone, and it has to go to my recently deleted, right? We all have pictures. We take them of our family. We take them of our vacations. We take them of our food. We screenshot random things on our phone. I mean, our camera rolls are full of thousands of photos, but I wonder just for how many of us say life still feels empty. Though we have all these things that tell us, no, I have a life. I experience things. I see things, but yet we can still feel empty. Societally, we are missing out on the real thing, and we exchange it. We miss the real thing because we get caught in lesser things. Here's what I mean by that. Last night, if you were sitting in your home between 5:30 and 7, at some point, you were sitting there and your phone started going beep, 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 and you got this tornado warning. Take shelter. I was hungry and cooking my steak dinner last night, and I thought, I'm going down with the house. I have to finish this now. I've started this. So we did not take cover, but I said, Karen, there's more important things. But I don't know about you. Did anybody look outside after the storm? You see that sky? Absolutely beautiful. Again, finishing the steak dinner, Karen says, Tyler, you have to come see outside. You got to see the sky. And I come out, and all of the array of colors, blue, orangish, pinkish, purplish, all kind of blended into one. And guess what the first thing I did was when I got outside? You think, oh, put your arm around your wife and just take it all in? No, it was pulls out the cell phone. I have to capture this, right? We have began to do these weird things in our society where we take something that's actually important, actually valuable, and we exchange it for something lesser and hoping to capture it, but in the end it just kind of feels empty and it kind of feels blank after it's all said and done. Societally, we're messing ourselves up. How I would say it, we are a culture that has a plethora of pictures, but we're actually starving for life and meaning. And, when I think about what culture even says about what we're experiencing right now, late last year, The Atlantic, mind you, not a Christian publication, wrote an article talking about the effects of what we're seeing societally in that we're isolating more than ever before. And the line that I noticed from the article was that convenience can be a curse. Think about all the technology, right? You want your groceries today. Maybe you're sitting around and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot this item for Easter dinner. What are we ever going to do? Oh, I know, shipped. And you order your thing, or I think Amazon can get it now to you in almost like 3 hours with a drone, right? It's like, this technology is wild, and not only is it convenient because you don't have to go out, but now you don't have to engage with a crowd, and not only do you have not engaged with a crowd, but that person that goes and does that for you, you don't have to engage with them. They set it on your doorstep, take a picture of it, and send it to you in an app, because God forbid you answer your door and engage with another human. Right? We are a culture that does not know how to operate with people. We are isolating. These statistics are only getting worse with the younger generations about how to actually engage with people. And what this is doing is the article continued on to say that these repeated seasons and moments of isolation is actually rewiring our civic and our psychic identity. Like our civic identity, we are not the same people in public anymore. Here's a test for you. When was the last time you saw an acquaintance you kind of know? Oh God, I hope they don't see me. Right? We see people that we kind of know, but not just a simple, hey, how's it going? It's, I can't be seen. Let's go. We're civically, our identity is changing. Psychologically, this messes with our minds, and it's not just even this Atlantic article. That's not just a one-off. Also last year, there's publication of a 77-page report of the U.S. Surgeon General that put out a public health advisory. Now, I don't know about you, if you're aware of our political landscape at all, but our government officials don't like agreeing on anything, let alone what's good for us and what's bad for us. But the U.S. Surgeon General put out in publication this public health advisory, an epidemic of loneliness, that it's wreaking havoc on the soul of a person. Like, do you realize what a public health advisory is? They put them on boxes of cigarettes. I grew up in a home, lots of family that smoked. My grandmother, 3 packs of Pall Malls unfiltered. I mean, just chained them, right? And that was just the world we lived in. And I just remember always reading on that pack, if you smoke these, you will get cancer, you will die. Our government says, hey, it's that bad, we should probably let them know. They look at this epidemic of loneliness, isolation, and they said, it's getting so bad, we ought to say something. And there's a 77-page report documenting all of its research about how this wreaks havoc on the soul. And so even society is saying, hey, everyone's in their corners and no one's willing to come out. And here's the great danger. And so as we come to Easter, as we come to Resurrection Sunday, I want to pose a question. Especially if you're here and you're maybe asking the question, what should I actually believe? Here's the question on this Resurrection Sunday. Is there actually a light that doesn't just brighten your mood, but brings you to life? Because again, some of us, if we're honest, we say, hey, I know what it's like where life feels blank, where it feels empty, where it feels dark, where it feels broken. And we say, hey, is there actually something that can fix this? Because all of the things that I go to for my muse, to lift up my soul, to lift up my spirit, it doesn't seem to work. And so is there actually something that might actually fix what feels broken in me, what feels blank in me? Because we all feel that Polaroid. We feel those seasons of being empty. And is there actually something that is going to bring something about? Because, hey, you know what? If you give this Polaroid long enough, it does produce something. It does. Like the message of Easter is that life isn't blank, it's not empty, it's not dark. Jesus can bring about beauty from whatever it is you're experiencing in life. And God can work in the dark. God can develop in the dark where you're sitting there and wondering and questioning. And you know what? Don't shake these things. I know Outcast lied to us all and said, shake it like a Polaroid. Only the young people get that. I'm sorry if you're older and you didn't catch that. But Outcast says, shake it like a Polaroid. You shake it, it's going to mess things up. But do we actually believe, and I do, that there's something that can bring meaning to this when life feels empty, when life feels blank? I believe it's only Jesus that can truly produce satisfaction for the human soul. I believe that John, in his gospel account, in his Easter narrative, answers the question that yes, there is a light that can bring you to life. Not just improve your mood, but give you new life. This is a beautiful story, but we have to look, because it's kind of a surprising way that John answers this. Look with me at John chapter 20. We'll look at verse 1. This is how the story begins. Early on Sunday morning, while it was still dark. How does Easter morning start in the first Easter? It starts in the dark. It doesn't start with fireworks. It doesn't start with pomp and circumstance. It doesn't start with celebration. It doesn't start with people showing up with their best drip, $14 Salvation Army, right? Like that's not how Easter begins. Easter begins in the dark, and I just wonder how many maybe have come into this place this morning and you would say, hey, it's Easter morning. I'm supposed to feel great. My family's here. It's Resurrection Sunday, but life feels dark for me. I'm walking through a diagnosis. I'm walking through a broken relationship. I'm walking through a financial crisis. I'm walking through pain. I'm walking through something. And you just say, yeah, feels dark. Well, I like that John starts his Easter account, Easter narrative this way, because it's like, okay, for these earliest disciples, Easter started in the dark. I mean, obviously, John is talking about literally, like it's early in the morning, it's still dark outside. But if you think about it, you're one of Jesus' earliest followers. You're one of Jesus' earliest followers. 2 days ago, you witnessed the darkest day in human history. You saw this sinless Son of God crucified on a cross, the wrath of God poured out on him. And for them, these earliest Jewish followers, they're saying, hey, we're awaiting a Messiah that's going to come, that's going to overthrow Rome, that's going to establish a kingdom, and we're all going to live a pretty good life. That was their expectation. That was their hope of Messiah. And so now, here's this guy, for 3 years, you're following him, watching him give people, free lunch, fish and chips. Right? You're seeing, a health care plan that you just can't pass up, right? He's just healing people. And he is telling you, I am the way. He's saying, I and the Father are one. I mean, he is saying all of these claims about being the Messiah. Some people argue that, hey, Jesus never claims to be the Messiah. Oh, no, he does. When the religious leaders were ready to stone him, Jesus says, hey, on what basis do you have for trying to stone me? And they say, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. Do not miss, in the first century, the claims were very much understood what Jesus was claiming. He wasn't claiming to be a moral teacher. He wasn't claiming to just be a prophet. He is claiming to be God. He is claiming to be the one who can forgive sin. He is making very bold claims in the first century, bold enough where they're like, we're going to kill you. If Jesus was just one God amongst the gods, Rome's not killing him. But because of Jesus' exclusive claims of, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, they kill him. And so these disciples had put all their hopes, all their marbles in on Jesus. They pushed all their chips in and said, we're following you. And then they watched him die on Friday. And so after our text, even today, what continues on, what John continues to write, was that as Mary goes and preaches the first Easter message, was that all these disciples were hiding behind a locked door. It was a dark first Easter, both literally and figuratively. And so in that moment, these disciples are seeing and wondering some of the same questions that we are. Is Jesus really worth it? Can he really be trusted? And can he truly offer new life? And so, again, if you've come into this place this morning feeling in the dark, wondering and having questions, you're in a good place. You're in the place of the earliest disciples. But now let's read. I read you verse 1. We're going to drop down to verse 11. Mary was standing outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she stooped and looked in. It's not because she's like 7 feet tall. It's because the entrance was about 3 feet. And so she has to stoop and is pretty much crawling in. And she saw 2 white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been lying. Dear woman, why are you crying? The angel asked her. Because they have taken away my Lord, she replied, and I don't know where they have put him. She turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. Dear woman, why are you crying? Jesus asked her. Who are you looking for? She thought he was the gardener. Sir, she said, if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him. Mary, Jesus said. She turned to him and cried out, Rabboni, which is Hebrew for teacher. Don't cling to me, Jesus said, for I haven't yet ascended to the Father, but go, find my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father, and tell them that I'm your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, I have seen the Lord. Then she gave them this message. Easter is telling a message of new creation. John isn't just simply telling us that Jesus resurrected. In fact, John does not give you a cinematic view of the resurrection. Like, he does not show you Jesus doing the impossible sit-up. Right? Mary comes early in the morning. It's still dark out. She sees that the stone has been rolled away. She peeks in. Boom, he's gone. He's already resurrected. John doesn't give you the resurrection necessarily. He shows you the implications. He shows you the fruit of the resurrection, but he's not actually showing you the resurrection because John has something bigger he's trying to show us. He is trying to show us how Jesus and Jesus alone offers us new creation. New creation. Notice the language that John uses. The NLT says early on Sunday morning, but if you read the NIV, the ESV, the KJV, the NASB, any of these translations all say the first day of the week. He uses the language like still dark. And this is another thing to take note of. It's only John's gospel that you understand that the tomb that Jesus was buried in was in a garden. Do you notice that? Who does Mary think Jesus is? Who does she mistake him for? The gardener. His tomb is in the garden. So there's this Eden-like language that you're seeing. He's taking us back to creation. And this is ultimately the hope and the theme of John's gospel. In John chapter 21, John says, "For the reason that I'm writing to you is so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing in him, you can have new life." That's the goal. New creation, new life. That's what John is trying to tune us into. And the very first verse of John's gospel, going all the way back to John 1:1, is in the beginning. John is trying to show his readers and his audience that Jesus was the Word at creation. He was the one speaking everything into existence. And ultimately, what happens is creation falls, creation rebels, creation sins against God, and so now God has to fix the first creation. And it's what we spent time on Good Friday talking about, the darkness. Like Jesus came to invade the darkness in a real profound way, but in dealing with the darkness, that's Genesis language. Because what existed before light? God created the heavens and the earth was without form, and what hovered over the sea? Darkness. And so in the death, burial, and resurrection narrative, what we see is that darkness gets reintroduced, that God has to deal with the old creation. And so Jesus comes, pays the penalty for the old creation, dies the death that we deserve, deals with that darkness, and ultimately comes back to life, showing us that he's the light of life, that we can have new life, new light that's only found in him. This is deeply profound about what John's doing here. But he's bringing us back into Eden-like language to show us kind of this inversion of Genesis 1-3. That all this is happening in a garden, and so that we would see that resurrection is the reversal of the fall and the inauguration of new creation. Again, John's gospel began at creation, and now here at the end, John takes us back towards that primordial darkness. So resurrection reads as everything being made new. And so if Easter is new creation, then Christianity is not just a moral betterment program. It's not just become a better you. No, like it's not become a better you. It's experience new life. You know, it's not try harder, be better, try to be good, and then maybe God will love you, and then maybe he'll call you his son and daughter. No, this isn't a program. This is God starting a new world inside of the old one. And here's a beautiful truth. If new creation begins while it's still dark, then God can do his most formative and decisive work even before you see it, feel it, or experience it. Like that's the blessed hope of Easter. That, hey, I might be walking through a valley, I might be going through a dark time, I might be going through suffering, and everything around me telling me that God can't be trusted because I can't perceive and I can't see, and because I can't see, and therefore God must not be working. That couldn't be further from the truth. God works even in the unseen moments and the unseen ways. I mean, the whole book of Hebrews is the unseen God moving in unseen ways to bring about yet to be seen things. This is how God likes to work. And that's hard for us because we have 5 senses and we like to live out of our senses and we like to be able to see. We like to be able to perceive. But God says, no, I want your heart. I actually just want you to trust me. Would we be willing? You know, Alvin Plantinga was a philosopher. He ended up becoming the chair at Yale University. He was a believer. And Alvin Plantinga's apologetic for the Christian faith because people ultimately, their argument against the Christian faith is, I can't see, I can't perceive, therefore it can't be real. And Plantinga says, okay, here's my illustration for you. If I told you, hey, over in that tent, when you unzip it, there will be a great Bernard in there. Well, what would you expect to see when you open up that tent? You'd expect to see some 120-pound, big, slobbery, smelly thing drooling, coming out at you, jumping, ready to have fun. That's what you'd expect to see if you said, hey, there's a St. Bernard in there. But what if I told you there was a no-see-um in that tent? A no-see-um is something that's smaller than a gnat. You'd open up that tent, and you'd look in, and you'd say, I don't see it. I don't see the no-see-um. And just because you don't see a no-see-um doesn't mean there's not a no-see-um, you just don't see him. Try that 3 times fast. But your inability to perceive, your inability to see doesn't mean that's not there. Just because we can't see how God's working in the midst of suffering and difficulty doesn't mean that he isn't. There's several of us in here that can testify, bear witness, that in my darkest of days, in the driest of seasons, I saw God work. I saw his hand come through. I saw him bring beauty from ashes. That's what's happening here on Easter in this reversal of the fall. Because if all you have is the fall, if all you have is the horizontal, you look around and you'd say, certainly nothing good can come out of all of this. And that's where we have to look vertically, because vertically there's a work that's actually happening. And so God can work even in the darkest of days. Something to note again, John stages Easter in the garden, and this isn't meant to, be decor. It's not a photo booth set up. No, this is to show us all of what's going to happen in the garden. And Mary actually mistakes, again, Jesus for the gardener. And ultimately, we're seeing Eden's reversal. You see, where Adam and Eve took from a tree, Jesus died on a tree. Where Adam and Eve sinned against God and they saw their nakedness, they went and hid because of shame. They hid themselves in the garden. Jesus bore our shame, beat, stripped naked, died on a cross. Again, that nakedness and shame that comes at the cross. Not only that, but where you saw Adam and Eve fail in the garden because of John's gospel, we see that God conquers in the garden. Where right relationship between God and man, because that's what Genesis tells us. Genesis tells us that God walked with the man and the woman in the cool of the day. God walked with them. And that broke, that fracture, that was needing restoration. This God walking with the man and the woman in the garden. Fast forward to this scene. Mary shows up to the garden. She does come with some other women. I know John's gospel doesn't account for that because he's narrowed in. He's got a focus. But other gospels accounts tells us that Mary with other women showed up to the garden. You weren't going to leave the city gates to go to a place where people get executed by yourself in the dark, right? So, but Mary's there, and her Lord's not. In a sense, you're seeing that isolation from her Lord. And she says, sir, if you've put him somewhere, tell me where he is and I'll get there. Right? She wants that union with her Lord that all of us, before we knew Christ, experienced. This longing to be made right, to be one with the Lord. And then Jesus shows this woman, he shows up to her in this moment and calls her by name. This is beautiful. Because what do you see now? God and mankind walking together in the garden once more. Like that's possible today. That you could actually walk with the Lord, that you could experience his presence, that his presence could actually come and live inside of you. That's only possible because of the resurrection. It's only possible because of the reversal of Eden. It's only possible because light has come to the darkness and has showed us a way. But this isn't possible because Mary got a self-help program. It wasn't try to be a better person. No, she needed a resurrection. She needed someone to call her by name and awaken her to life, awaken her to purpose. And again, you think about the world we live in, I think this preaches today because the world we live in, again, we are the most connected technology in the world, but we're some of the most isolated people. You can be in a room full of people and feel unseen, unknown. But in the person of Christ, he can awaken us, he can see us, he can know us. And that's really, really made possible because of Christ, because of his resurrection. This is a beautiful message for our culture today. When you see where our culture's hurting, where our culture's struggling. And what I love, again, is how John comes to us with this Easter account. Because if you think about the details, again, it wasn't like you saw Jesus resurrect. No, you saw questions. You saw confusion. You saw tears. You saw doubts. You saw disciples running. Like when Mary comes to the tomb, doesn't see him, she goes and tells the disciples. And if you read like verses 3, 4, and 5, you'll see that the disciple Jesus loved, which is John, and Peter begin to get in a foot race to go towards the empty tomb. And John, in John's gospel, has to let you know, and I smoked Peter in that foot race. You know, for generations and millennia later, we get to read about how Peter lost that race. But John meets the Easter story with where many of us meet Jesus, with doubts, questions, and confusion, right? Most of us didn't say yes to Jesus because we had absolute certainty that, yep, it all just makes sense. No, for a lot of us, we needed Jesus to meet us in our longings. We needed Jesus to give us some clues. We needed Jesus to show up in real, tangible ways. And even Mary, in that moment, right? She's at the tomb. She's crying. And God shows us that God's not allergic to your tears. He's not allergic to your questions. He's not allergic to your doubts. That's why I love the Easter message. That's why I love the Easter story, is because look at the disciples. You were people with real questions, real doubts, real, I don't understand this. They were not expecting to go to the tomb and it be empty. And then some of these first eyewitness reports, they're kind of rejecting. Like it literally takes Jesus showing up to them on a mountainside, letting them touch his wounds. And then before Jesus ascends, he says the thing that, it's our whole mission here. He says, therefore, go into all the world, make disciples, teach them all that I've commanded them, baptize them, and lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. That's called the Great Commission. It's the mission of the church. It's why we still exist. It's because we're taking the name of Jesus anywhere and everywhere where people don't yet know. But you know what that commission comes on the heels of? Look at verse 17. Matthew 28, verse 17, it says that some of them doubted. That period, go therefore into all the world. The disciples show up to Jesus and say, we're struggling to believe this ourselves. And Jesus, not afraid of their doubts, not afraid of their questions, says, go tell the rest of the world what you're struggling to believe yourself right now. Jesus isn't afraid of your doubts. He's not afraid of your questions. He's not afraid of your tears. He meets us in it and offers us new life. He offers us a better way, and he invites us. And so what are these invitations that we see from the text for Easter Sunday as we get to conclude here? The first thing that I see from the text of invitation is God invites you to seek honestly. When Mary is crying, what is the question that Jesus asks her? He says, who or what are you seeking? Have you ever asked that question for yourself? Like, what is it in my soul? What is it in my heart that I'm truly seeking after? Is it love? Is it power, control, security, safety? What is it you say, hey, I'm longing for this? Maybe I didn't get it as a child. Maybe I had, my own story got all messy. What is it that I'm really, truly seeking? Have we asked ourselves that question? Because Jesus invites us to ask that honestly. He wasn't doing that to shame her. He was inviting honesty. And then when she finally realizes it's Jesus, she begins to cling to him. And Jesus says, no, don't cling to me. I haven't ascended to heaven yet. He goes, actually, I need you to go on mission. And so Jesus' invitation is stop clinging. Whatever it is that you feel like you have to cling to now because life feels blank and dark and empty. The things that you're clinging to and hoping like, hey, maybe this bottle, maybe, maybe this pornography, maybe this money, maybe this, whatever you fill in and say, hey, this is my muse. This is the thing that I go for, hoping that it's actually going to satisfy what's most broken in me, most empty in me, most blank in me, and actually give me substance. Jesus says you can stop searching for that. You can stop clinging to that because don't cling to that which does not satisfy. That's the invitation today, and that we actually get to cling on that which does. Jesus Christ, who is both the bread of life and the fountain of living water, that Isaiah says that we can come and we can eat and drink without price and truly be satisfied. It's only possible because of him. And lastly, we get the invitation to go tell the rest of the world about it. He says, hey, Mary, go tell the rest of my brothers. Go tell them about the greatest news in the world. I want to encourage us to do the same thing. That we wouldn't just leave here saying, oh, that was a subpar message. The worship was really good. We've got good worship here, but the message was subpar. Don't roast me over Easter dinner, please. Give it a Sunday. But tell the rest of the world about the hope that's found in Jesus, that only he is the light of life. Only he brings light to darkness. Because there's not a better message. I saw this online, and then I went and read about it. Around the time of the Titanic, there was a pastor living in Scotland named John Harper. John Harper got invited to come to Moody Church in Chicago, prominent evangelical church. And Harper gets invited to come, and they said, hey, for 3 months, would you preach revival to us? And so he agrees, he comes. And while he's here, he's preaching revival. His wife back in Scotland, they have a 6-year-old daughter. His wife passes away. And so he has to leave, he has to go home. And as he goes home to care and tend for his now daughter as a widower, Moody Church calls once more and says, hey, John, would you consider coming back and just staying with us and being our pastor? And so John agrees to the call. He says to his daughter, hey, we're going to the United States. And they board this ship called the Titanic. This is all a true story. You can go read about this. John Harper preaches a message the Sunday before the Titanic sunk. A message of repentance, a message of the gospel, a message of how Jesus is the only way, the only hope, the only means of salvation. And then few days later, now, the Titanic is going down. He's got his 6-year-old daughter. He's a single parent. He has every right to get on one of the lifeboats. But he knows that there's not going to be enough. And so he grabs his 6-year-old daughter, places her on the boat, and he stays aboard ship. Hours later, the Titanic sunk, and John Harper was found clinging to rubbish and a life vest. And he begins swimming around all these people that are in the same predicament that he is in, about to lose their lives. And he's asking this simple question: do you know Jesus? There was a man by the name of Aquila. And he's there hanging on to, rubbish of the boat. And John asks him, sir, do you have a relationship with Jesus? And he says, no, I don't. And John quotes Acts 16:31, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. And John continues to swim to the next. Do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus? Do you know Jesus? For hours later, he comes back around, and he comes back to a man named Aquila. And he says, sir, do you believe in Jesus? And he said, sir, I can honestly answer you, no, I do not. And so John Harper takes off his life vest, gives it to this man, and says, you need this more than I do. And with 2 miles of water beneath him, sinks to his death. 7 years later, there's a pastors' gathering in Canada. And one of the men stands up. And he said, I'm a survivor of the Titanic. And he said, and I'm here to tell you that I am John Harper's last convert, the last person that accepted his invitation to the message of Jesus before he sunk and died and laid down his life. He says, but John Harper was only able to lay down his life for me because Jesus laid down his life for him. This is our message, that we would go anywhere and everywhere to tell people about a martyr for them, that say, did you know somebody died for you? Did you know somebody laid down their life for you so that you might live forever? That's what Jesus did. That's what the message of the gospel is that Jesus takes off his righteousness and he clothes us with it so that no longer does God see me, but that he sees Jesus. It's not about me being good, because if the message, if my hope of salvation, my hope of heaven is that I have to be good, man, I am destined for hell. But if my hope at heaven is because Jesus was good, then certainly this is good news. There is no better news to say that your salvation is not on you, it was on Jesus, and he gladly laid down his life. He entered our darkness, conquered it, defeated sin, death, and the grave by raising from the dead, and he offers us invitation to follow him. Would we tell anyone and everyone about this message? They call this the gospel. They call this good news. And so this is the invitation of Easter. And if you're here today and you say, hey, I've never given my life to Jesus, I'm still clinging to the world to give me salvation, would today be the day? Would today be the day that you stop clinging to worthless idols and begin clinging to the only hope and the only means of salvation, Jesus Christ? We're told that it's by confession and repentance, that if you were to confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, we would be saved. That confession is the declaration of truth. Jesus raised from the dead. He died my death, and he's inviting me into life. That's the life that I want, and that's repentance. It's just following it. It's just following him in obedience, as imperfectly as you'll do it, as imperfectly as I do it. We're going to fail. We're going to fall, and the grace of God meets us every step of the way. Thanks be to Jesus, because it's not about us. It's about what he's done. And today, if you never have, I invite you to begin to follow him. Cling on to this hope, this assurance. Let me pray for us.